So finally, the most important aspect of this camera, which is different from the others, is the variety of shooting modes that you've got, which you control through this program wheel here. Now if I bring that a little bit closer, you can hopefully see some of the symbols. At the moment it's on off because it's level, it's whatever symbol is level with this power indicator here. If I turn it this way, clockwise, it will go on to VCR. And at that point, using VCR, I can see whatever I recorded here in the viewfinder. Again, by using my flip-top controls, I can rewind, I can press play, I can see anything that has been recorded so far, I can check the footage, and if it's any good, brilliant, well I can use it. If not, I can scrub over it. Now, personally, I wouldn't necessarily scrub over anything. However, when you stop, it's always worth making sure that you roll on a few seconds beyond the end of the footage, because if, as you can hear here, that little whirring sound on the stop is the tape spooling backwards by about half a second, so you don't want to record over your footage. But that's how you check your footage. Now, the other functions that we can do as we start to go in the opposite direction through off, first is this green square here. Okay, this is called easy recording mode, and basically it will do everything for you. There is nothing that you need to do. However, there are an awful lot of functions that it can't do. For instance, in this mode, it can't record in widescreen, which you don't particularly want because you're supposed to be making films. So, anything else we want has to go on to some of the other functions. Our first one here is A in a box. Now that is auto record. And this, while it's not easy, it basically does everything for you, except you can control the focus over here through our two rings. You can also turn it to 16:9. Actually, the default is 16:9. And you can also control the exposure, how light or how dark it is. So when you're first starting out, this A function, auto function, is probably the best one for you. However, if you know anything about photography, you might want to go on to some of these other ones that are further down. For instance, TV, that is the shutter priority. In other words, you take complete control over how quick the frames are filmed, and the camera works out everything for you. The opposite is true when you go on to AV, which is the aperture priority. So you control the aperture, you control how much of a distance is in focus at any one time, and the camera will sort out the shutter priority for you. And if you're really, really phenomenally good, you might want to try M, where you control absolutely everything. I personally wouldn't. The final one here is a spotlight function. You've got a little person in a triangle of light, and that is a very good function if you are shooting somebody who is in a strong spotlight. For instance, if you're shooting a show or something like that. Finally, there are two other functions that are well worth looking at with this camera. One is called clear scan. Clear scan is the ability to shoot a computer screen without getting any flickers on it. Now, computer screens which are filmed with normal cameras are very often end up kind of flickering a little bit in front of the camera. So we want to try and avoid that, and this camera can do it. So what we do here is we turn the dial onto TV. We then select clear scan by pressing the shutter button here. That's the top one. And in the camera menu, which you won't be able to see here, but you press the menu button just down here. Let me show you that. And you go to camera setup, and then you select clear scan under the menu options. This, by the way, is the little roller that allows you to make your selections, and if you press it in the middle, that then picks that function. What you do once you've selected camera setup is you select clear scan, and then you select the correct frequency, which means that you are not recording the black bands in the computer screen. The best way to do this is to test it out in front of the screen itself, and that way you will be able to see in the viewfinder whether or not it's recording black lines. The second function, which I think is really good, is what's called an interval timer. If you want your product to look a little bit more arty, then this is the function for you. Basically, it's a little bit like photography, where you can shoot stop motion or where you can shoot over intervals of time and build up a picture, say over a matter of hours or a matter of minutes or even days, and get an idea of how something looks across that period of time. The way to do it is, as I said, this interval shooting. And what we do is we press the menu button here. The menu button will then allow us to see the menu screen through here. You won't be able to see it at the moment, but I'll talk you through it. You control all the menus with this up and down, a little button here, and then if you press in the middle, that allows you to select whatever option it is. Well, you want to go to the VCR setup and select the interval, and then the interval menu opens. If you select the on setting, you can then select the interval time and the record time. Now, the interval time is how much time there is between the camera going on and off. So, for instance, you might want an interval time of 5 seconds between shots. The recording time is how long it actually records for during the time it's on. So let's say you set that to 1 second. What would happen is the film would shoot for a second, and then it would go off for 5 seconds. Then it would shoot for another second, go off for 5 seconds. And you could set that to happen for as long as you wanted. Once you close that menu, again by operating the menu button there, you can press the start-stop button just here on the top or here, either of those red buttons, and that will start recording at the interval that you've set it and for the amount of time that you've set it. And that can give you some really, really nice, interesting effects, like some of the music videos that we've seen. You kind of get this idea of stop motion over time. A really, really useful effect if you want to push your camera work.